The text message arrived at 0300 hours while I was finishing my final security briefing at the base in Ramstein. Don't bother coming home for Christmas. Your brother needs your room for his new gaming setup. Stay where you belong. My father's words glowed on the screen, cold and dismissive after 8 years of service, 3 deployments, and a chest full of commendations he'd never asked about. I stared at my phone in the empty briefing room, still wearing my dress uniform from the medal ceremony. The Distinguished Service Medal felt heavy on my chest. The base commander had just spent 20 minutes praising my work in cybersecurity intelligence, the classified operations I couldn't tell my family about, the systems I'd designed that were now protecting critical infrastructure across NATO allies. My father didn't know any of this. He'd stopped listening after I chose the military over his accounting firm 8 years ago. "You're throwing your life away," he'd said when I enlisted. "Working for my company, you could have been partner by now. But no, you had to play soldier." I hadn't just played soldier. I'd become one of the youngest specialists in cyber warfare intelligence, developed encryption protocols that were now standard across 3 branches, and held security clearances that made me untouchable to competitors. But to him, I was still the daughter who disappointed him by choosing service over spreadsheets. The flight home was already booked. My leave was approved. I'd spent months planning this surprise, coordinating with my mother in secret, buying gifts, imagining the look on everyone's faces when I walked through the door on Christmas Eve. Now my brother, Trevor, the 32-year-old who still lived at home and worked part-time at the family firm while spending my father's money on computer equipment, needed my childhood bedroom for his toys. I forwarded the text to my mother. Her response came immediately. "Please still come. I'll handle your father. Trevor's been impossible lately, and your dad enables everything. We need you here." The next text made my blood run cold. "Your father's company is in trouble. He won't admit it, but we might lose everything. He's been meeting with people, making deals. He's different, scared. Please come home." I called my direct supervisor, Captain Morrison. "I need to access financial databases. Personal matter, but it might be related to national security." "Major Hayes, you're officially on leave." "This can't wait." 20 minutes later, I was back at my terminal, running searches that made my stomach drop. My father's accounting firm, Hayes and Associates, had taken on a new client 6 months ago, a shell corporation with ties to a foreign entity we'd been monitoring for money laundering. The contracts were clean on the surface, but the payment structures, the routing numbers, the timing of transfers, everything screamed illegal operation. My father had no idea he was being used to wash money for an organization with links to hostile foreign intelligence. I grabbed my phone and called him. He answered on the 5th ring, his voice irritated. "What do you want?" "I'm busy." "Dad, it's about your new client, Meridian Financial Solutions." "How do you know about that? Have you been spying on me?" "Listen to me very carefully. That company is under federal investigation. You need to terminate the relationship immediately and contact the authorities." He laughed. Actually laughed. "This is rich. You've been gone for 8 years playing G.I. Jane, and now you think you can tell me how to run my business? Meridian is our biggest client. They're keeping us afloat. Whatever conspiracy theories you've cooked up in your paranoid military brain, keep them to yourself." "Dad, I work in intelligence. I have clearance levels you can't imagine. I'm looking at classified files right now that connect Meridian to international money laundering and—" "Stop," he cut me off. "Just stop. You're not coming home. Trevor's right. You've always been dramatic. Military service hasn't changed that. It's made you delusional. Don't call me again with this nonsense." The line went dead. I sat in the empty office, hands shaking. My father had just dismissed a direct warning from a military intelligence officer because he couldn't see past his disappointment in me. Because Trevor, his golden boy, who'd never accomplished anything, had convinced him I was dramatic and attention-seeking. I pulled up the full file on Meridian Financial. The investigation was further along than I'd thought. FBI was involved. Treasury Department. Interpol. They were building a massive case, and they were ready to move. The arrest warrants were already drafted. 3 days. They were going to execute the raids in 3 days, on December 23rd. Everyone associated with Meridian was going to be detained for questioning. That included my father. I called Captain Morrison back. I need emergency leave extended, and I need to contact the FBI task force handling the Meridian investigation. Major Hayes, what's going on? My father's accounting firm is an unwitting accomplice in the Meridian money laundering operation. He has no idea what he's involved in, and he won't listen to me. I need to make sure the investigating team knows he's not a willing participant before they kick down his door. Morrison was quiet for a moment. I'll make the calls. Get on that plane. And Major, I'm sorry. The flight to Philadelphia was the longest 8 hours of my life. I'd been granted emergency access to communicate with the FBI task force, and Special Agent Torres had been sympathetic but clear. We'll take your testimony into account regarding your father's knowledge and intent, but he signed documents, processed transactions, and accepted payments. At minimum, he's going to face serious questioning. At worst, he's criminally liable. I landed at 1800 hours on December 22nd. I'd sent my father 3 more messages, each one more urgent than the last. He'd blocked my number. My mother picked me up from the airport, her face drawn and exhausted. He won't talk to me about it, she said, as we drove through the Christmas-lit streets. He's locked himself in his office, taking calls at all hours. Trevor's strutting around like he owns the place because your father put him in charge of the Meridian account. He thinks he's finally proving himself. Of course, Trevor was handling the account. Trevor, who'd barely passed his CPA exam on the 3rd try, who'd spent the last decade doing minimal work while coasting on our father's name. He was now the primary point of contact for a criminal enterprise. We pulled into the driveway of my childhood home. The Christmas lights were up, the wreath on the door, everything looking normal and festive while a federal investigation circled like a shark. I walked in wearing my uniform. My father was in his study, door closed. Trevor was sprawled on the couch in the living room, surrounded by computer equipment, playing some video game with his headset on. He didn't even look up when I entered. I knocked on my father's study door. Dad, it's me. I'm here. We need to talk. I told you not to come. His voice came through the wood. Leave. I'm not leaving. The FBI is going to be here tomorrow morning with a warrant for your arrest. Meridian Financial is a front for money laundering. You and Trevor are both going to be detained unless you cooperate right now. The door flew open. My father stood there, face red, finger pointing at my chest. You're insane. Get out of my house. I don't care what uniform you're wearing. You're spreading lies about my business, and I won't tolerate it. Trevor had heard the commotion and pulled off his headset, walking over with a smirk. Oh, look, the hero returns. Dad, why is she even here? You said she couldn't stay. Trevor, how much do you know about Meridian's actual business operations? I asked, keeping my voice level. He shrugged. They're a financial services company. They handle investments, international transactions, portfolio management. Dad and I have been killing it with them. They're paying us 3 times our normal rate. Have you asked why they're paying you 3 times the normal rate? Because we're good at what we do, Trevor shot back. Unlike you, who abandoned the family business to play with guns. My father stepped between us. Trevor's right. You've always thought you were better than us. Too good for the family company. Too good to work with your own family. Now you show up here in that uniform, acting like some kind of authority, trying to sabotage the one client keeping us solvent. Dad, I pulled out my phone and opened the classified brief I'd been given permission to show him, the portions that were cleared for civilian view. Look at this. These are the federal charges being filed against Meridian's executives. Money laundering, wire fraud, conspiracy to defraud the United States, providing material support to foreign entities. The FBI has been building this case for 18 months. Every transaction you've processed for them is evidence. He barely glanced at the screen. I don't care what some government report says. I've met with Meridian's CEO. He's a respected businessman. This is obviously a mistake. Some bureaucratic mix-up that your paranoid military friends are blowing out of proportion. Sir, your signature is on documents that facilitated the movement of $47 million through offshore accounts. Trevor's signature is on the most recent batch, another $12 million processed last week. The FBI doesn't make mistakes like this. Trevor went pale. 12 million? The transactions were in the accounts, but I didn't realize it was that much total. That's because you don't pay attention, I said, watching him process the numbers. You just sign what Dad tells you to sign. Don't talk to your brother like that, my father snapped. He's been more of a help to me in the last 6 months than you've been in 8 years. The doorbell rang. We all froze. My mother appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. Are we expecting someone? I looked at my phone. 1945 hours. The task force wasn't supposed to move until tomorrow morning, but maybe they'd accelerated the timeline. I went to the window and looked out. 2 black SUVs in the driveway. 4 people in suits getting out. Dad, Trevor, do not say anything without a lawyer present. Do you understand me? My father pushed past me and opened the door. Special Agent Torres stood there with 3 other agents, badges out. Richard Hayes? Yes. I'm Special Agent Torres, FBI. We have a warrant to search these premises and seize all documents and electronic devices related to your business dealings with Meridian Financial Solutions. We also have questions regarding your involvement in— This is outrageous, my father interrupted. I'm a respected accountant. My firm has been operating in this city for 30 years. I don't know what lies you've been told, but— Sir, I'm going to stop you right there, Torres said, his voice firm but not unkind. We have evidence that your firm processed over $59 million in illegal transactions over the past 6 months. We have your signatures, your son's signatures, and documented communication with known criminals. Now, you can cooperate and potentially reduce your liability, or you can continue to obstruct and make this much worse for yourself. Trevor made a sound like a strangled gasp. My father's face went from red to white in seconds. Major Hayes? Torres nodded to me. Thank you for the advance notice. It helped us prepare a more comprehensive approach. My father turned to look at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Real, bone-deep fear. You called them? I tried to warn you, I said quietly. 3 days ago. This morning. An hour ago. You wouldn't listen. Mr. Hayes? Another agent stepped forward with a tablet. We're going to need you to come with us for questioning. Your son as well. You have the right to an attorney. Trevor didn't know, my father said quickly, his voice cracking. He just did what I told him. He's not involved. Dad. Trevor's voice was small, scared. What did we do? What did you make me sign? Torres looked at his tablet. Trevor Hayes, you signed authorization for $12 million in wire transfers on December 15th. The funds were routed through 6 different shell corporations before being deposited in accounts linked to a foreign money laundering operation. Your signature, your credentials, your legal liability. Trevor grabbed the back of the couch, his legs visibly shaking. I didn't. I just thought they were normal client transfers. Dad said it was all legitimate. Ignorance isn't a legal defense, Torres said, not unkindly. But cooperation is taken into account. My father looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. Your military intelligence? Major, actually. Cybersecurity and financial crimes. I've been tracking international money laundering networks for 6 years. When I saw Meridian's name in our databases and cross-referenced it with your firm, I flagged it immediately. I tried to tell you. The Distinguished Service Medal, my mother's voice came from behind us. The ceremony last week that you couldn't attend. She received it for her work on international financial security operations. My father's hands were shaking now. I thought, you were just... I didn't know. You didn't ask, I said. You decided 8 years ago that I'd made the wrong choice, and you never reconsidered. You took Trevor's word over mine because he stayed and I left. And now you're both facing federal charges because you wouldn't listen when I tried to help. Agent Torres cleared his throat. Mr. Hayes, we need to go. Now. How bad is this? My father asked, his voice barely a whisper. How much trouble are we in? Torres looked at me, then back at my father. That depends entirely on how cooperative you are and how much criminal intent we can prove. Major Hayes has testified that she believes you were an unwitting participant, manipulated by Meridian's legitimate-looking front operations. That testimony matters. But the signatures are real, the money is real, and the damage is real. What happens now? Trevor asked, tears running down his face. Do we go to jail? You'll be detained for questioning. Based on what we learn and what the prosecutors decide, you might be released on bail, you might be held, or you might be charged immediately. The investigation is still active. My father turned to me one more time. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't listen. I'm sorry I didn't see who you'd become. Sir, we really need to go, Torres said, gesturing to the door. They led my father and Trevor out in handcuffs, reading them their rights as they walked to the SUVs. My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing. The other agents moved through the house, collecting documents, computers, phones, everything related to the business. I sat down next to my mother and put my arm around her. They'll be okay. Dad didn't have criminal intent, and Trevor was just following orders. With good lawyers and full cooperation, they might avoid prison time. The business, she whispered. Everything we've built is gone, I said gently. But you'll survive this. We'll all survive this. Torres came back inside, tablet in hand. Major Hayes, we're going to need your full statement. Everything you observed, when you first identified the connection, what warnings you gave. It'll help establish that your father acted without knowledge of the criminal nature of the transactions. Of course. He paused, looking uncomfortable. For what it's worth, you did the right thing. A lot of people in your position would have tried to protect their family by staying quiet. You prioritized the law and potentially saved them from much harsher consequences. After he left, I sat in the quiet house with my mother, watching the agents work. The Christmas tree lights blinked in the corner, presents underneath that would never be opened. My childhood bedroom upstairs, the one Trevor needed for his gaming setup, felt like it belonged to a different person entirely. My phone buzzed. A text from Captain Morrison. Status? Family detained? Investigation proceeding? I'll be available for testimony as needed. Understood. And Major, take care of yourself. This couldn't have been easy. I looked around the living room, at the family photos on the walls, at my mother crying quietly beside me. 8 years ago, I'd left this house to serve my country. I'd learned skills, gained knowledge, built a career that had meaning and purpose. I'd tried to bring that expertise home, to help when it mattered most. My father had sent me a text at 3 a.m, telling me not to bother coming home. Now he was in FBI custody because he'd refused to listen when I did. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent years protecting national security, tracking financial crimes, stopping bad actors from exploiting good people. And when it came time to protect my own family, they'd shut me out because I'd chosen duty over dynasty. My mother's phone rang. She answered, listened, and then hung up. That was the lawyer. He's going to meet your father and Trevor at the federal building. He says it's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long few months, I corrected. Maybe years, depending on the charges and the trial. Will you stay? She asked, looking at me with red-rimmed eyes. Through all of this? Or do you have to go back? I thought about my orders, my duty, my life that existed entirely separate from this disaster. Then I looked at my mother, small and scared in her Christmas sweater, and made my decision. I'll stay as long as I can. My leave is approved through New Year's. After that, I'll request extended family emergency leave if needed. She grabbed my hand. Thank you. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry your father couldn't see how extraordinary you've become. The house was quiet now. The agents had finished their search and left with boxes of evidence. The Christmas music my mother had been playing earlier was turned off. Outside, the neighborhood was peaceful, lights twinkling, families gathering for the holiday. Inside, everything had changed. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from the task force. They wanted me to testify before the grand jury about my father's likely lack of criminal intent, about Trevor's incompetence versus malice, about the sophisticated nature of Meridian's operation that could fool experienced accountants. I'd come home for Christmas after 8 years of military service, expecting rejection and disappointment. Instead, I'd walked into a federal investigation and potentially saved my family from decades in prison. My father's text message glowed in my memory. Don't bother coming home. Your brother needs your room. Stay where you belong. I did belong here, just not in the way he'd meant. I belonged here because I had the expertise to recognize the danger, the authority to intervene, and the courage to prioritize truth over family comfort. Trevor's gaming setup would have to wait. My childhood bedroom would remain exactly as it was. And my father would have a very long time to reconsider his assessment of my life choices. The Distinguished Service Medal was upstairs in my bag, awarded for excellence in military intelligence operations. Tonight it felt heavier than ever, a reminder that sometimes doing the right thing means watching your family face the consequences of their own choices. I'd tried to warn them. I'd used every tool at my disposal, every bit of authority and knowledge I'd earned through years of service. They'd dismissed me, blocked my calls, and told me to stay away. Now they'd learn exactly what I'd been trying to protect them from, and exactly who I'd become while they weren't paying attention. Christmas would come in 3 days. My father and Trevor would likely spend it in federal custody, answering questions, providing testimony, hoping their cooperation would be enough to avoid prosecution. My mother would be here, trying to hold together what remained of our family and our reputation. And I would be here too, in uniform, standing between the life I'd built and the family that never understood it, wondering if the distance between us could ever be bridged, or if some gaps were too wide to cross. The Christmas lights blinked on and off in the window, cheerful and oblivious, while inside the house, everything we'd once been as a family lay in pieces on the floor.